The juggler was good. Why he couldn't put that kind of application into getting a real job, I had no idea. Maybe he just liked dressing up like... Hi again.
Oui? What
What do you know about the Knights Templar?
Le Templier? Ah, the last Grand Master, Jacques du Molay, was burnt on an island in the Seine in 1314.
Wow. You're pretty well educated for a juggler.
No, monsieur. I read it on that board over there.
Look, a red nose.
Ah, you are...
A clown?
No. If so, you would be a much better jongleur.
For a moment, an idea capered around near the spotlight of my attention, but fell down the pothole of abstraction before I could focus on it. Catch you later.
Au revoir, monsieur.
Excuse me, officer. What do you know about medieval ironmongery? Have a look at this little baby.
A tripod? What is it for?
You mean you don't know?
No, monsieur. Nor do you, I think.
Take a look at this.
Ah, an electrician.
Does this matchbook mean anything to you?
The pattern looks Middle Eastern.
What do you make of this grease paint stained tissue?
Delightful. Would you like to see some of my used tissues?
Hell no.
Then please put yours away.
Does this red nose mean anything to you?
Ah, you...
Do I look like a clown?
No. Although you juggle like one. Now, if I'd known you were a clown, it would have been amusing. And not a humiliation for you.
What do you mean?
Whoever heard of a plain-clothes clown?
He had a point. So you're saying that if I juggle badly with a red nose, I'd be the king of comedy. But if I juggle badly without it...
You look like a pathetic loon. Oui, monsieur, you have it.
What do you know about that?
No.
Shouldn't you be off directing traffic? Yeah?
Oui.
Yeah.
And...
I'll see you around.
Oui.
I had no desire. Hi again.
Oui?
Does this grease paint mean anything?
A red nose? And now grease paint? You are sure you are not a clown?
Well, I was distracted by the idea again. Caper, caper, caper. Plummet. Nope. Gone again. I'd like to have another try at juggling, please.
You have gone on a crash course, perhaps?
No. I just had an insight into
Huh?
Allow me to demonstrate. The balls, please.
If you insist on completing your humiliation, monsieur.
Okay, now for my secret weapon. The juggler was speechless with rage. You could have mistaken him for a mime. And without a word, he collected his balls and left in a fury. Hey! You forgot one of your balls! Hey! But he didn't hear. Better still, deprived of his entertainment, the gendarme decided maybe he ought to do some policing for a change. There was a small crowd. It's a weird thing, but you can put them in their vacation. They look like morons. Why is... I had no desire to talk to the... case was empty. The glass case was intact, but the tripod had been replaced by a sign reading, "Exhibit temporarily removed." The glass case was intact, but the tripod had been replaced by a sign reading, "Exhibit temporarily..." Pardon me.
Oui, monsieur?
What does this ball mean to you?
Nothing, monsieur.
Do you recognize this tripod?
It is vaguely familiar.
I should think it is.
Very similar to the one which we used to have here at the museum. In fact,
That's what I thought.
but this is obviously a poor copy.
Right. Do you know anything about medieval manuscripts?
Not me, monsieur. It is the uniform, I guess.
And they
We're, of course, no.
Thanks for your... Hi, Andre.
Hello.
What does this ball mean to you?
It's a juggling ball. I love juggling.
Thanks for your help, Andre.
You're welcome.
Sergeant Moo?
Yes,
Look what I found, Sergeant Moo.
it is a ball. The ball of a child.
You're half right, but this is no toy, Sergeant Moo.
Don't tell me. The juggler is back.
The juggler? Who's he?
The most cunning circus performer turned pickpocket in Paris. He mesmerizes his audience with an unarguably talented but mind-numbing display of juggling, while his accomplice goes through the crowd and empties their pockets. I thought we'd seen the last of him.
Maybe not. See you later, Sergeant. If I wanted to get deeper into these catacombs, I was going to have to get onto that path. If the near edge hadn't crumbled away, I could have jumped it easily. There were 3 arches, each with an inscription. There were 3 arches. The wall had flaked, and anything once written on it had long since gone. There were 3. The inscription was hard to read, but I made out Templier and something about innocence. The inscription was hard to read, but I made out Templier and something about innocence. There were 3. My medieval French isn't much, but the few words I understood seemed to say, "This is where the gallows used to stand." Maybe. A weird little boat lay tied up. I guess they used it to get maintenance crews around. Either that or the Phantom of the Opera was somewhere near. On the boat was a winching machine. The hook lay in a bed of chain. The hook lay in a bed of chain. On the boat The door was a handsome piece of work. I pushed against the door, but it seemed to be locked. Rats! It's locked. There, in the middle of the door, I could see some kind of socket. The door. It was a simple but elegant tripod made of metal, with traces of colored enamel still visible in places. It was the bright red ball I'd got from the juggler. The inscription was hard to read, but I made out Templars. The hook lay in a... The hook lay in a... A priest stood by the pews, energetically polishing something. A priest stood by... Excuse me, Father.
Pardon?
Do you mind if I ask you a few questions?
Not at all, monsieur. It will be my pleasure to help you.
I was in Ireland recently and I brought back this plaster.
My sister brought back a shillelagh.
Have you seen this man before?
No, I have never seen him before.
I've got a red nose.
Oui, so you have.
There's grease paint on this tissue.
Oui, you are correct.
I thought about using the shake and shock on him, but I couldn't do that to a priest. I have here a sewer key.
Ah, oui?
No. Maybe... What do you make of this chalice?
It certainly looks very old.
About as old as this church, I think.
There seems to be an engraving on it.
Yeah? What does it say?
I do not know, it is very tarnished. With your permission, I could try polishing it. I promise I will be very careful.
That'd be very good of you.
This shouldn't take very long. Feel free to look around.
Okay, thanks. The priest was still busy with the chalice, so I decided to have another look around the church. The priest was still... On the end of the staff, around the... Well, I could have just taken the end off the staff, but other than deported. The priest was still busy. I didn't have time to... The priest was still busy.
Hello, George.
Nothing happened.
Yeah,
The gem fits perfectly, but what does that prove?
maybe the tripod has to be in a certain location.
There's nothing on the manuscript to indicate where, though, is there? Did I show you this match?
Huh? Oh,
This is the tool I used to get into the...
yes, you should.
Hey, Nico, shake hands with me.
No chance, Buster.
I showed you the red nose, didn't I?
Yes, you did.
Do you want this photograph back?
No, you keep it. I can always make...
Let's take another... There's a guy with a sword and a bull. Between them is a gem supported by a tripod. There's a guy with a sword and a bull. Between...
Look at the...
The night through my... The night through my... Let's take... There's a... But the... Then through... Then through... I'd better get back to the... Sergeant Moo,
Yes,
would you like to...
not while I'm on duty, monsieur.
See you later, Sergeant. The totem pole looked distinctly out of place in the setting. I pushed against the door, but it seemed to... Maybe not. The door was a handsome piece. There, in the middle of the door, I could see some... My medieval French isn't much, but the few words, maybe. The inscription was hard to read, but I made out. The wall had flaked. The wall seemed in very poor condition. The inscription was undecipherable. I wondered why. The wall had flaked, and anything once written on it. If I wanted to get deeper into these catacombs, I was going to have to... If the near edge hadn't crumbled away, I could have jumped it easily. I had no desire. The priest was still busy with the chalice, so I decided to have another look around the church. A row of old pews, beautifully I thought of all the people, all those firm, the flabby flesh. That wasn't a plea. Whoa! I didn't have time to... A knight there in the biblical I guess. I didn't recognize the biblical story in it. I was somehow it looked more a knight there. In comparison to its neighbor, it looked pretty plain. A stone knight lay in full stone armor, blank eye. Carrying all that armor around must have been hard. A stone knight. I wondered if this guy had... A statue of a knight. The statue had any secrets. A scroll, a scholarly knight. I could see per disciplinum meum lux videbus. A bit of a stained glass window. Wow! Hoping for a big insight while squinting through a hunk of statuary had been pretty optimistic, I guess. On the end of the staff, around the base of the disc, was a hairline. Well, other than deport. On the end of the staff was some... The priest was still busy with... The priest... I didn't have time. A roll of... although firm... that... Whoa! In French, English, and German it read, "In 1312, Pope Clement V dissolved the knightly and excommunicated. In the following 2 years, their Grand Master..." If I wanted to... If the near edge hadn't crumbled away, if... The matchbook bore a pattern of swirling color and the words, "Club." The hook lay... A weird little boat lay tied up. I guess they used it to get... Either that or the fan... On the boat was a winching machine. On the boat... Nothing hollow there. It was time for some brutal destruction. Hey, that's hollow! I'd poked a hole in an historical site. If any archaeologists came by, they'd lynch me for this. There was some sort of mechanism hidden inside the wall, with a lever in the middle of it. Close up, I could see the plaster was thinner where I'd broken through, and behind it were some cogs and a lever. Here goes. The secret door had jammed. I couldn't get through that gap. I'd pulled the lever right over. Inside the hole, I could see one of the cogs had come loose and jammed the mechanism solid. Inside the hole, The inscription was hard to read. That sounded pretty solid. Rats. It's locked. The door. The door. The door mechanism was trashed. It would take a blacksmith or an engineer to do anything with that. Boy, had I ever made a mess of that door. There was a crack in the wall. Through it, I could see a glimmer of natural light.
In the beginning was the end.
An end wrought by our enemies began our darkness.
In the end will be a beginning.
An end to our enemies heralds our new day.
Report. The military establishments are in flux. The end of the Cold War has left them with no clear goal and as obvious targets for budgetary cuts. We have successfully promoted a sense of betrayal in the upper echelons. They feel that the politicians have cast them adrift. The pattern is emerging. Our time is now.
Good. Mademoiselle?
Governments are giving the corporations more respect than their own citizens. A groundswell of dissatisfaction and dissidence is growing. The corporations are becoming too large and complex for their own executives to control them. A blind belief in market forces is accelerating this trend the world over. The pattern is emerging. Our time is now.
The global population's belief in those that govern it has never been lower. We have inculcated a sense of immediacy and action over forethought and planning in all the major governments. They are acting on hasty decisions that cannot be completed or revoked without appearing foolish. The pattern is emerging. Our time is now.
Excellent. The tired old governments are dying a slow death from their own incompetence and our machinations. Professor, where is the broken sword?
As we discussed last time, with the loss of the manuscript, our search is as a corollary hindered.
And as discussed last time, you have been furnished with a dramatically increased budget. What have you been doing with our money, Professor?
We are working on the principle that the Templars, that is to say our predecessors,
Hold on. These are the Templars?
must have left a trail when they were hiding the clues to the sword of Baphomet's location. I have a small army of historians and archaeologists ferreting out that trail.
I trust these historians and archaeologists are more trustworthy than your friend Pegram.
Pegram was loyal. He tried to protect the Lochmarn gem when the Hashashin came near.
And failed. And don't call that Syrian maniac the Hashashin. He's an assassin. Plain and simple.
That's not what he believes. He actually thinks.
Silence! Do I have to remind you that we have a sacred duty? A trust? When Philippe attempted to destroy the order, we lost the sword and our power with it. Now we have the opportunity to reforge it. But time is short. We need results, not petty bickering, not excuses. Now, Professor Baphomet.
Yes, of course, my apologies. We will find Baphomet and the sword, manuscript or no. We have already found another element actually within Paris.
Excellent. What is it?
Well, we're not exactly sure at present.
Ha!
But I have my best people working on it. You would do well not to criticize others, Eklund. At least I have not murdered one of our own.
Of course. That guy was the bogus doctor in the hospital.
Marquet was a liability. Eklund dealt with him on my orders.
I beg your pardon, Grandmaster. I did not mean to.
Have you any good news for us, Professor?
We already know 3 of the elements. We know that Klausner had obtained the lens before he vanished.
Where was he?
Syria. We know that he arrived, but after that, nothing.
The assassin.
I fear so. It's a shame. Klausner was a good operative.
This will be our last meeting in person until we locate the sword of Baphomet. I hope that I don't need to emphasize the importance of finding it. Without it, our endeavors come to nothing. With the sword reforged, we will have the power to sweep the stage of all opposition. The next time that we meet, it will be to become the princess of this world!
Wow. There was a crack in the wall. Through it, I could see a glimmer of natural light. I noticed 3 small notches around the edge of the stump's top. In the middle of the circle was a stump of stone, a shaft of daylight from the world above lancing down to touch it. There was a large circle marked out on the floor with a stump in the middle. Around the circle I could see words inlaid into the stone. On the circle's circumference were the Templar seal and 2 Latin phrases, Non omnis moriar and Clarior e tenebris. I shall not die completely, the brighter from the darkness. On the circle's circumference were the Templar seal, I shall not. The water seemed to belong to an underground river or something. It was way too deep to belong to the catacombs. The tripod's feet fitted neatly into the notches on the top of the stump. In the middle of the circle was a stump, a shaft of daylight from the world. The light, falling from above, struck the gem and scattered in 5 neat rays, and each ray picked out a letter. Starting from the left, I could read M-A-R-I-B, Marib. Now all I had to do was figure out what the heck that meant. Nico, I've seen them.
Who?
The Templars. I spied on their meeting in the catacombs.
And you saw the Knights Templar?
I saw a bunch of guys masquerading as Templars. They're after something called the Sword of Baphomet. The bogus doctor was there, the guy who killed Marquet. The manuscript is the key, just as we thought. It shows the way to the broken sword, whatever that is.
And how does the assassin fit into all this?
He's out to stop them. These Neo-Templars, they're men and women in influential positions. Don't you see? Plantar was one of them. The assassin killed him for the manuscript, to stop them finding the sword.
But now we have got the manuscript.
Yes.
So, how do they hope to find the sword?
I don't know. They said something about a lens and a guy called Klausner who's gone to Syria, but they didn't seem to realize the significance of the very site of their meeting. You see, after they'd gone, I discovered a stone pedestal and a carved inscription. I set up the gem on the tripod, directly below a beam of light. The gem split the beam and lit the letters M-A-R-I-B.
Marib is a village in Syria.
Then the Neo-Templars are ahead of us. Klausner beat me to it.
You're not thinking of going there yourself, are you?
Why not?
These guys are crazy and dangerous. That reminds me, you should leave the gem here.
Okay. What about the tripod?
I'll send it back to Andre, anonymously.
Do you think I should go to Marib?
Syria is a long way, Georges.
You're back.
Me, I have returned.
Well, I wasn't expecting to see you back here again.
No? Well, it is a strange thing, but I am here on duty.
On duty? But you're just sitting there drinking wine.
No, I am not just drinking wine. I am undercover.
I must be missing something. You're in uniform.
Precisely, monsieur. My cover is that of an indolent, wine-guzzling police officer.
You've got me convinced.
Merci. But in reality, my every muscle is poised, every nerve honed. I am drawn tight, ready to pounce. Dang!
Who or what were you planning to pizzang on?
You must have heard, monsieur, of the terror that is gripping Paris.
You mean the killings? Oh, at last, someone's taken action.
People die every day. No, I am on the trail of Sieur Jacques.
Who?
Sieur Jacques, the terror of the subterranean city. He pops up here, he pops up there. The cops, they seek him everywhere. Is he so hush or beneath the neck? That damned elusive Sieur Jacques.
Bravo, that's very good.
Merci. I was up half the night writing that.
Who is this Sieur Jacques character anyway?
Ah, if we but knew that, we could have him in custody in an hour. But he is cunning to despoil the sewers of our fair city. He has committed many deceptions. He has pretended to be a police officer and deluded a poor war veteran.
Uh-oh.
He has pretended to be a jongleur.
Wow, is that the time?
And an American tourist. What nationality are you, monsieur?
Canadian. Well, gotta go now. See ya. Well, it's not everyone who can say they started an urban myth. I think he suspected me of being the mysterious Sieur Jacques, and the last thing I needed at the moment was to be arrested for crimes against public sanitation. The priest was still busy with the chalice, so I decided...
Hey, leave that cover.
Sorry, no...
You stay away.
How did this guy make a living selling useless old machine parts in the middle of nowhere? Hello. I was wondering whether you could help me.
Why, hi there, handsome. What can I do for you?
Hi, my name's George. I was just...
Well, it certainly is delightful to meet you, George.
My
name's Mrs. Henderson, but you can call me Pearl, I'm sure.
Okay, Pearl.
So nice to meet a friendly American face so far from home.
Pearl?
Yes, dear?
I was just wondering if you could help me.
Why, sure, precious.
I've got some plaster of Paris.
That's nice, dear.
Have you seen this man before?
No. A friend of yours?
No, not really. What do you make of this grease paint stained tissue?
Oh, it's grease paint. I thought somebody had gaudy taste in makeup.
I liked her too much to zap her with the buzzer. Do you know what this is?
Lord, no. It looks painful, though.
It's a sewer key.
Who'd want to break into a sewer?
Does this matchbook mean anything to you?
You're a philommenist?
Don't they have secret handshakes?
Oh, George, now you're teasing.
Have you ever heard of anybody calling himself Merlin?
Merlin?
No, Merlin. Merlin. There's an O in there.
Moulin?
You haven't, have you?
No, darling. No Moulins.
What does this mean to you?
Gosh, is this some sort of psychological test?
No.
Oh, well in that case it's a red ball.
Have you ever heard of a group of knights called the Templars?
Sounds familiar. I remember. Dwayne had a book. The Holy Something and the Holy Something Else, I can't quite recall. I read a little of it.
And?
Seemed like a lot of hooey to me.
So, tell me a little about yourself, Pearl.
Me? Oh, a gentleman's interest is always so flattering. Well, my husband and I run a greetings card company in a cute little place called Akron in Ohio.
Akron? Cute? Little? Is your husband around, Pearl?
Well, as a matter of fact, yes, he is. Sorry to disappoint you.
Do you know anything about medieval weaving?
I do a little needlework, but gosh.
It's okay. It was a long shot. I've got to go now, Pearl.
It's been a pleasure, George. Don't be a stranger.
Pearl was actually as close to decency as she could be. Syria's a pretty conservative country. They don't like women displaying legs and shoulders. I wondered if the respect for local custom was accidental or deliberate. He didn't have anything that I needed. The stand was hawking ancient machine parts. The stand was hawking ancient machine parts that seemed to be from a stripped-down printing press. I couldn't imagine where they'd come from, or who'd want them. Embarrassed as I am to admit it, you can spot an American tourist a mile off.